What's up, everybody? How's it going? Today we are in the garage because we're going to be talking about how to improve your 4Runner's handling in under 5 minutes. Probably saying, well, how the heck are we going to do that? Well, the prerequisite is you need to have worn Sway Bar Bushings. I know for a lot of us out there who have these older gen 4Runners, our Sway Bar Bushings are probably toast and we don't even know it. What are Sway Bar Bushings? Well, they look just like this. So these are the aftermarket ones that we're going to be installing today. They have little... Oops. They have little grease nipples on that we're going to be able to grease them with just to protect the polyurethane for years to come. And so how do you know if your Sway Bar bushings are bad? Well, as you can see on my 4Runner here, we actually have poor Sway Bar bushings because you can kind of see the gappage. And so a Sway Bar, basically what it does is it is an anti-roll bar. It stabilizes your vehicle, so it connects one side of the suspension to the other side of the suspension. So when you're turning, when you're making a quick maneuver, it kind of makes sure the suspension in your vehicle works in unison. Of course, you have a rear and a front sway bar, and you have bushings on all of them. For the front sway bar bushings, oftentimes we can get is kind of a clunk. So when you're accelerating, when you're coming to a stop, you might feel a little bit of a clunk. This can also be the drive line clunking. You just need to re-grease that. But for a lot of us, you can kind of just see here, the sway bar itself has worn out and it's no longer holding the sway bar in place, which is creating that clunk. So what are we going to do? We're going to replace them to get that smooth handling back. Let's get to it. All right, now let's talk what we need for the job. So I have my new front sway bar bushings. These are polyurethane. They have the greaseable nipples as we were talking about before. These are from Profane. They are just a basic front sway bar bushing. I think 30 millimeters is the diameter. I'll link them all down below. I have a 14 millimeter socket, of course. And then I have some anti-seize because we're going to re-grease those bolts to make sure they're nice and not seizing. Some penetrating fluid, some heat. I like to heat first, then use the fluid to kind of get into those crevices that I made with the heat. Impact. Hopefully we're not going to have to use that. We're going to do it by hand to make sure we don't break anything first. And then, of course, I have some multi-purpose grease in this little grease gun here for greasing them up before and after we put them on. And so, let's get started. Alright, so now that we're under the truck here, I've already hit it with heat and penetrating fluid and broke the threads loose with my socket. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my impact here and I'm going to loosen everything off, and then you will see it drop in what we're working with. Nice. Beautiful. That'll peel down. And then we can just pry this bushing off right there. And we can probably pull it to the side. There we go. And so here we go. This is our old bushing. Honestly, it doesn't look too terribly bad. Actually looks in pretty good condition, but it is worn, it's stretched out, and so it's no longer doing the job. And so that's why we're replacing it. And so let's go over here to our new bushing and take a look. Alright, and so on my left here I have the OEM bushing, as you can kind of see, and then I have the aftermarket one on my right. With the OEM one, you just get like a very basic rubber bushing. Keep in mind, it is a little bit more bulky because it is using the stock bracket. The new one comes with a new bracket, and so if you look into this one, let me try to get it here, you can kind of see some grooves, and the reason for those grooves is because we have the grease nipple, and so it pushes grease out, and it goes along those grooves to keep the bushing packed, which is kind of nice and actually maintains the form and function a little bit better. And so these are the ones we're going to be putting on. These are the ones we're taking off. They don't look like they're in bad condition, but they have stretched, and that's the problem. They're not necessarily worn out in terms of being beat up and looking horrible, but they're just worn out in terms of they're not keeping shape anymore. That's why we're putting these in. So let's go ahead and put these in and grease them up first. I'm just going to do a little bit of grease on the inside, and then I'm going to tighten them up. 30 foot-pounds is the torque spec. Let's get to it. Alright, so now that I've greased this new one up, I'm just going to reach around here, simply slide it on. I might have to go around there a little bit, and I did clean this off before I put the new one on, and get it in there. Perfect. And so that's seated nice, and so now we just need to get the bracket, and we're going to line up the bracket on the holes here, and after that we're going to pump this full of grease till it absolutely seeps out. So, let's put the bracket on. Alright, and so I have the bracket here, and so all I'm going to do is pull the bracket up. And there we go, and I'm going to take my original bolts. As you can kind of see here, I have some anti-seize on them, and so the anti-seize is going to come in clutch because it's going to make sure they don't get stuck in there. And we're just going to thread these in nicely by hand, making sure we're not cross-threading anything. And then we'll tighten them up. Alright, and so once we got them pretty snug there, it's just a 30 foot-pound torque spec. I'm not going to bother personally getting my torque wrench in there. Just checking that it's snug, and it's snug. And so obviously I'm not reefing. I don't want to break any bolts or anything like that. It's snug. And so we're good. And so now we're just going to pump it full of grease, and we are done. And then rinse and repeat on the other side. Alright, so I got my grease gun here. I am just going to put the grease gun on the nipple, and I'm just going to pump it full. And as you can see, it's already coming out. We're just going to give it a few pumps. Boom. That is good. I'm going to wipe off that excess grease. And we are done, everyone. I hope that was helpful. I just wanted to make a quick video as I did this myself. As I said before, all the parts will be in the description. If you have any comments, questions, just feel free to comment down below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. See you next time.